Hey, is Coach Tet here? Coach. So, can everybody hear me? Okay, good. Good. I just want to thank everybody for coming. Really excited about this. Unfortunately, one of the coaches, they had to back out, just had a family emergency. So if things work out with them, hopefully they can hop on the call. Again, we'll be here for an hour and a half. So hopefully, first and foremost, everything's all right with their family. And if things work out, hopefully they can hop back on the call. So what I want to do is get everyone together and focus on coaches. So I invited initially 3 coaches to where everybody, parents, players can just chime in, ask questions. I know you guys are all at different points in your college, in your basketball journey. And a lot of you guys have aspirations of playing college basketball, which is awesome. So we want to support you on that. So this is your chance to get a coach's perspective on things. What are some things that you've thought about? Some of the things that you've heard, and again, this is a few coaches' perspective on it. So take it for what it's worth, and then obviously there's some follow up if you want. We want to continue this. So I think Bobby he has a vast network. A lot of us know a lot of coaches. It's a very small community. So if we can get other coaches and try to do something weekly, we will do that, especially if it's paying dividends and it's meeting the goals and the things that we're trying to accomplish. So again, for today, it's just from a coach's perspective. So please ask questions. I have a list of questions here that I'm just going to shoot off at the coaches at random. Again, if you guys want to chime in, you can raise your hand. There's a chat on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you don't know exactly where that's at, you can open it up. I think it's one of the options up top. So just chat in your question. I can read it off if you don't feel comfortable reading it. But we're very excited. Again, we've been talking about this for a while, so we're finally here. And so I'll just have, I think I see Coach Tet, so I'll allow him to hop in and just give a quick introduction. And I think Coach Barbour hopefully he's here as well, and then he can jump in and quickly give an introduction about himself. And then Coach Sarah, again, if things work out, we'll have her introduce herself when she can. So, Coach Ted, can you just quickly introduce yourself and tell us what you've been doing?
So first off, thank you, James, for having me. Thank you, Bob, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to try and give back the best that I can, what this game has given to me. Let me see. So funny thing, I found a picture of me from 1988. I posted it on my social media page of me playing basketball for the first time, at least documented, from a newspaper. I was 5 years old at the time. I was more looking at the person shooting than I was actually playing it, but that's the first actual documentation of me playing. So I'll go with that. I've been playing since I was 5 years old. And I'm 37 now, so a little over 3 decades, been around the game. My 5 o'clock shadow definitely gives away my age. I think if I cut off some more of this, I'd cut off a year. So, but let's see. So started playing at 9 years old, started playing competitively, played in recreation leagues. I know that's kind of uncommon nowadays, playing in rec leagues to actually compete. There was really no club ball, at least for those 9-year-olds back then that I knew of. And we were living in Oakland, California at the time. So we moved to Sacramento at 9 years old and played for the Salvation Army and played for a little bit of time there, got better. Ended up going to junior high, playing through that, played in high school. Didn't play in my senior year, actually, of varsity basketball. And then didn't play my first year of community college either. So I had 2 years off. Ended up playing at American River College. Coach just asked me to come and play. I did it. Had 4 of the guards in front of me, beat all of them out, ended up starting, which is a great opportunity for me. And then didn't play for 4 years. Actually took time off and started working full time, trying to get my life together, get my life right. A friend of mine had an opportunity. She said she was playing at the current school the school that I graduated from. Ended up playing there for 2 years. Right after that, went into coaching, and actually that's how I met Bob. There was a young lady that we were recruiting, played for West Valley. Met him at if I'm not mistaken, I either think it was at one or two places. He was at Santa Cruz High School at a tournament that we were having, or it was at the CCS semifinals, I want to say. It's one of those two situations that's when I met Bob. So my memory kind of fades a little bit. But so, yeah, been coaching ever since then, college women's basketball since then. I love it. I had an opportunity to scrimmage against the Monarchs, Sacramento Monarchs at the time, for 2 years, and that changed my whole perspective on women's basketball. So my whole mission was to give back what I experienced for 2 years, those 2 summers, to the women's game as much as I could. And I saw that there was a kind of like a white space for that. So I delved 100% in, and man, there's a lot of women's basketball players that I do not know about, but I've been blessed to give an opportunity to give a couple young ladies some direction and be a part of their career. So that's pretty much me. Oh, and currently now I'm at William Jessup University. So coach at William Jessup University. And this is my 2nd year. Before that, I was at Pacific Union College in Angwin, California. So if you don't know where that's at, that's in Napa Valley. That's the closest area, kind of between Napa and Sonoma, kind of the area. So I've been coaching women's basketball college for now my 8th year, and coaching women's basketball for 15.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Is Coach Barbour on? Okay. If he's not, then Tet and you and I'll just throw these questions at you. So players, parents, if anything comes up, please ask. If you want to speak up, just hit your mic and just cue like, James, I have a question. And then again, if there's some questions that we can't answer, we'll figure it out. We'll get right back to you on that. So first question I have for you, Coach, share a story about a positive relationship you have with a former player.
Positive relationship I have with a former player. Wow, there's a lot of former players. Wow. Oh, well, I was just actually texting her today. So Taylor Fox, who played at West Valley, first off, I had never seen a player of her size be able to do some of the things she did. When I watched her, I think it was the CCS semifinals or something like that, or for her, they had a tournament at Santa Cruz High School, and I was sitting up in the stands and, seeing a 6'2" girl who could bring the ball up, shoot it, do all the other stuff. I was like, geez, man, she's, I haven't seen that very often since, again, with the Monarchs. So even in college, we didn't have very many of those because of our level. NEI didn't really see too many of those type of players. So to see that type of young lady in high school actually doing what she needed to get done was actually pretty cool. And so I believe after her freshman year, we connected, and she asked me to start working with her just to help her improve her game. And at the time I was still living in Santa Cruz. So I said, sure, no problem. And literally like every summer she came back, and we were always working on something new, trying to help her get better. And a lot of those times we were working out every single day, like in the morning time, we'd have our sessions, maybe twice a day we would go. But those morning sessions were great because we would go from like 7 to 8:30 or 7 to 9. And some of those sessions we'd work the whole 2 hours. And some of those sessions, it was like, we're just talking about basketball and about life and about frustrations and things that she needs to overcome, and putting the challenges in front of her to get her to the point where she can get mentally tough. That those type of things, being in a gym with her, allowed me to have the relationship with her afterwards, because she understood I had her best interests. And in doing this quite a bit, there's a lot of people who work with players, and some have the player's best interests and some have their best interests. And so one of the things I learned was, doing whatever the player needs to get her on, not only on the court, but for her to be consistent, was probably the most important thing out of everything. And so, having worked with her for so long, what ended up happening is after she, kind of graduated, she continued to coach, and we continued our relationship. She asked me questions about coaching and about things she can do to help her coach out. And I gave her, kind of some tips and stuff like that. And even now she works for LinkedIn. We talk at least once or twice a month, just continuing our conversation, just about life and things like that. She actually got a chance to talk to the team that I was coaching, like 3 years ago back, the club team that I was coaching. And it was great because she was living in the area, and she came down and just came and talked to them about the process and about hard work, and gave those girls tools to help them be successful. And so I was just actually making a highlight tape of her when she was playing at Colorado State, Pueblo, that she could have for herself, just as a reminder of like where she came from and, how much work she put in our time together. And so, yeah, we were texting back and forth today, actually. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's a reason why I asked that question, and I think everyone's kind of getting it. It goes beyond basketball. So a lot of coaches were not just in it for, just the X's and O's. It's something that we can help you out, not only with the hoop stuff, but just life stuff. And also they help us, it goes full circle, where like she's coming in talking to your team and mentoring some of your younger players. So it goes full circle, guys. I got a question in the chat. What type of things are you trying to learn when you talk on the phone with a player? It's from Jane.
Yeah, great question. Because here's the thing that I think a lot of players don't quite understand is that a couple of things are going on. Either we referred to you by somebody else, so we trust their opinion. We value their opinion because we have relationships with them. We also, if we haven't got it from a recommendation, we've watched you play, but we don't know anything about you aside from what we've seen on the court. So you've been living your whole life with you, but we haven't, right? So the reality is we got to do our due diligence and kind of get to know who you are as a person, what your thought process is. Even, basketball is fine. Like, the system will allow you to be successful is kind of what I always say, but like, we need to know, how do you respond to adversity? And so, we'll ask sometimes probing questions about like, what is a tough situation, tough game you're in. We'll ask how your game went and see how you process those things. We a lot of times ask questions about, your coaches, how is your relationship with them? I know I like to go to practices to watch kids play. I definitely want to go watch them the day before a game. I want to watch them the day of the game. I want to watch them when they're playing in a game that's, they're going to blow somebody out or they're going to get blown out. And then I have conversations with them afterwards about like thought process for them. Because all I care about how you deal with adversity. When you're younger, you kind of, some of us, we live in a situation where we're kind of, we can be sheltered from some things. And once you're out on your own, 18, 19, 20, life gets really real because you're sometimes away from mom, dad. And so the reality is we want to know how you deal with those things. What's your process of dealing with those things? Because if we don't feel confident that you can handle those things, then we're probably going to look a different direction. And not because we don't like you, not because we don't think that you're a great person, but we know adversity happens throughout the season with grades, with school, with whatever's happening at home. Things happen. And we just want to know that, you can process or handle those things, or at least you have a framework to handle them. And then we hope that our school will give you the tools necessary to kind of overcome. So those are the kind of questions that I ask, because I know that the system takes care of itself. Like, we've done our research about basketball, so we know, what you can do. But we're asking questions of how you deal with adversity and how you deal with tough stuff, because it's going to happen. Like, if you don't think it's going to happen, I think we're lying to ourselves. So it's going to happen. We just want to know how you deal with it.
Good. Thank you for that question, Jimmy. Thank you for that answer, Ted. Another question focused on recruiting. What are the implications you feel of a possible lost summer for recruiting?
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry to say that again. My door was open.
All good. What are the implications of a possible lost summer for recruiting? It's from Ruben.
Yeah, I mean, that we're just dealing with that now. We were talking with another young lady today, actually, and we made an offer to her. And literally our head coach is like, look, all we've seen is film, and we've had dialogue back and forth, but all we've seen is film, and, I'm always cautious to kind of say, like, you can't get on without being seen, because I got on without being seen. I literally drove down to the school. In this situation, you can't. So I get it. So we're depending on, the word of mouth of coaches really watching film on you. And if look, I have kind of my way of watching film. Every coach, I think, has their own way. But I think the reality is, if you're not breaking the game down, or if you don't have film broken down to where it's edible for the coach, meaning that I got an email from a recruiting service, and, sometimes we kind of put those away. We just kind of like, it is what it is. But, the young lady had on there 40 minutes only, and it was edited out, all the dead time. Like, all the dead time was edited out. So I didn't have to worry about fast forwarding and went into the ball, went back into play, free throw situations. I didn't have to worry about none of that stuff. I literally watched her play the whole 40 minutes. And I literally emailed the service back. I said, I don't know if I'm going to get a response back, but I really appreciate the fact that I didn't have to watch an hour and 45 minutes of my day is now gone, because I have to sift through when you played, when you didn't. If you got subbed out, now I have to watch you on the bench. Like, some coaches like that, and I'm, more power to them. But I unfortunately don't have that type of time where I can do that. So the 40 minutes helped me out a lot. And that was just one example. I've had other stuff where you send highlights of, if you're a shooter, if you're sending me clips of you driving to the basket, like, I don't know what you really can do. You're sending me in your email, she can shoot the ball really well, or I can shoot the ball really well, and then you're sending me a bunch of driving to the basket. I'm confused. You know what I mean? So if you have film of yourself, taking the time to edit it down. I mean, I have iMovie. I don't know what, stuff you guys want to use, but, like, you literally can import it into your iMovie, cut it all down, and, it'd probably be like 32 minutes, 33 minutes or whatever. And you send that off to a coach or put it in a Google Drive or something like that. But I think taking initiative of, like, cutting your own film down and making sure that you have it the same, because that's really all we have to go off of is what you do film wise. And, we're leaning on recommendations from people about, what you can do and who you are off the court. But, when we have those conversations with you, that's, we'll talk about how you deal with adversity, but really all we can watch is film, because we can't see you live anymore. So it would be nice to, but we really can't, or at least, let me back up. I think the NCAA, something like that. I'm not sure entirely. I read something about, like, they can't do virtual workouts, but I think that's for people who are already on the team. I don't know if that's the case. If you can send that stuff off and have a virtual workout, let's say, like, in your front yard or whatever it is, for a coach. I don't know if you can do that. I know at our level at NEI, we have no restrictions on anything. So, like, if I said, hey, if you got a court and you can FaceTime me and I can watch you go through some sequences, that's great, because we all have to get kind of creative. So, but that's what I'm speaking from NEI level. I don't know what the NCAA has, but we're, if you have that creativity, if you can do that and you have the film access, like, please go ahead and do that. I don't think it'll mess you up as much if you have that stuff,
right?
But it will if you don't.
So staying on the topic of film position, you're getting a film from a point guard. What are some of the things that you're looking for? I know you played the position too, so it might be tough. So
yeah, I'm a little hard on point guards. I'm gonna tell you this straight up. Like, yeah, look, in order for me to play at American River, like the coach was like, you got to pick up 94 feet if you don't play. And so that's all that I look for. If you play point and you pick up full court, I'm like, you got me hooked already. You know what I mean? So, and you can turn somebody twice in the I'm good. Like you turn somebody twice in the backcourt, I'm happy. And then like, actually I just talked with another coach too. Cause he was asking me, what do you think about like, people sending you film and the highlights and stuff. And I was like, he was saying it'd be nice if you play point that you show you can distribute the ball. Like you're hitting people and you're making right decisions or you're playing with pace. Like that stuff is important. And even more importantly, like after a play, I should see you acknowledge the person finishing. Like there should be some finger point. There should be some high five. There should be something within after that clip is done, right? A second or two afterwards, I should be able to notice consistently that you are a floor general. You're always controlling the team. You're always making sure your team is where they need to be. You're directing traffic. Like that's, if you're a point guard, that's what you should be highlighting. And I know it's sexy to put up, points, but the reality is, I played with people who had double-digit scores from all starting five. Like I averaged 9, but everybody else averaged over 12. So my job was to get those guys the ball, and I took a back seat to everything. So if I'm sending highlight film to people, I'm sending them film of me making assists to open people, even if they miss it. Like I'm showcasing that I can make the right decision consistently and that I'm playing with pace. And depending on the school you're going to, you have to understand what system they play, right? Because we run like a 4-out, 1-in dribble drive, right? But you don't send like a ton of drive and kick stuff to a coach or a team that plays a bunch of pick and roll. Like that's what their system is, especially if the coach has been there for a long time, right? So, I mean, it might be different for some other coaches. Maybe some other coaches feel a different way. But look, if you're going to say you're a point guard, you better show me you're running the team and that every shot you took was like the open shot or like you got to the basket and you finished with contact. Like that's running a team, not you scoring 30 and saying you're a point guard. Yeah, you're really a 2. You know what I mean? So
right. So one more question on film.
Yeah.
Bearcat asked the ratio between highlights and actual game film. So the idea of breaking it down and getting rid of all the dead time and condensing it, that's a brilliant idea. But in terms of like highlights, or maybe you have a few good plays in another game, what are some of the consensus, not only from your guys' staff, but any staffs that you've spoken to on highlights and versus game film?
Yeah, highlights is the only way that we can actually watch what you can do in a condensed form. So like I say keep highlights to 3 minutes or less. I don't need a 7-minute highlight tape because it gets a bit monotonous unless you're breaking it up into different sections. Whatever you're great at, you should be sending that because a highlight literally is that you're highlighting what you do best. So I would, condense it to 3 minutes and I would be consistent at sending those, right? I wouldn't send them all at once because I don't think the reality is that coach is going to be able to open up everything. You got to realize some of these people are talking to, hundreds of kids or thousands of kids. And so, you want to be able to get them to not only open the email, but be able to watch it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So it needs to be jam-packed with the exact information that you need for them to call you up or send you a text or send you an email saying, thanks very much. Can you please send me game film? And so I always work in reverse. Like if I'm great at shooting the ball, I'm going to send a 3-minute highlight and it's not from the same game, unless you went off for 8, threes. I'm going to send like 3 or 4 from that one game and then 3 or 4 from another game and then 2 from another game. And then, to show that you can do that consistently, that you're not just in one game, you had an amazing game, you made 9 threes and that's it. Like you can never do it again. I'm going to show consistency over time. So, keeping it to 3 minutes or less, sending them maybe 2 videos in 1 email, and then following up. If they don't respond, I'm going to respond 2 to 3 days later. Hey, coach, thanks for opening up my email. I just want to make sure you got it. Oh, and by the way, here's another one. Here's another highlight clip of me doing something else. And then after that, like typically when a coach responds after they've seen enough highlights, they want to see you play in a full game. So I say after 3 times sending highlights, then at that point they're ready for a full game, and then I would send a full game. Because the reality is, what are you trying to do? You're trying to gain our attention. You know what I mean? So if you're emailing us consistently and you're telling us that you do these things, after we've seen it enough times, we're going to want to actually watch a full game. And I think I forgot what it was, but I think it's something with marketing that if a person sees it 4 times, they're more inclined to buy it, right? So it's kind of the same concept. Like you email us and we see it consistent, and it's not the same header every single time, but it's, another thing that you can do, and it's all within 3 minutes. At that point, I'm going to be like, all right, let me respond back and let me get a full game if I haven't responded back already.
Right.
That answers the question. I hope that answered Bearcat's questions.
Yeah, definitely. It does. I see Coach Barbour made it. Welcome, Coach. Let's just have you tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll maybe hop into the question that Coach Tet just answered. So if you can you just tell the West Valley family a little bit about yourself, and then we can get right into it.
Okay, well, I'm from the area. I went to Middle Afton High School, played there, and went to Kenyatta College. For as my coaching, I at the collegiate level, I've coached at Kenyatta College, Weber State, Eastern Washington University, and then at the high school level, I coached at Menlo School. The high school level, I was always a head coach, so I coached at Menlo School. I coached at Woodside High School for 12 years, coached at Mount Eaton over in Hayward for 1 year, and I coached at Sacred Heart Cathedral in San Francisco for 9 years.
Oh.
And so what was the question? I think I got in, the question was already being asked.
Yeah, so the question is, I'm sure with you and your former staff mates, game film, especially in the times that we're in right now, game film is very, very valuable. How much highlights do you guys want to see, and then versus game film? And then with that, what are you looking for?
I think highlight films are, to me, kind of hit and miss. From a coaching standpoint, it's interesting to see how kids respond to adversity. A highlight film, everybody's, the players doing well, and whether it's making the right pass or making shots. But when you get a game film or you go see someone play, it's interesting to see how they react to when there's a mistake made on their part or a teammate's part, or when they're behind, and how they react to, what kind of competitor they are for us when they're playing from behind. So I'm a game film guy person. I believe that that gives you more to go on than, say, a highlight film, even though there is some value in highlight film.
Sure. I think also I'm going to circle back to another question, Coach, if you can answer. When you're talking with possible recruits, what type of things are you trying to learn when you talk to them on the phone?
I think it's the same way when I coach my kids. I want to know what kind of person you are. I think it's important to be around good people and trying to build a relationship with them over the phone. So to me, it's trying to find out what kind of young man, a young lady they are. And that's not only dealing with them. You may deal with someone at their school to get more information on it. But I think that's at the top of the list because you're recruiting them because they can play, or you have interest in how good they can play. So I think the number one thing is again, what kind of person they are and what kind of teammate they are. And then from there, again, academically, where they're at and what kind of issues they may have there. And then I think the playing part comes after that, because to me, you can have a really good player that can come in from the athletic standpoint and skill standpoint and help you. But if the other issues don't fit, for as being a part of a team, being a great teammate, I think you're going to have problems in the long run with that player.
Sure. Coach Tet, and I want you both to answer this question. What are some misconceptions about coaches that either you've experienced or that you've heard?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, that's fine.
Misconceptions. I think first of all, I'm the kind of coach. I don't know everything, and to be honest with you, I don't want to know everything, because I think if you think you know everything, then you don't have the open mind to learn. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I tell, whether it's a parent or even my players I coach, is I tell them I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. I want to get better at what I'm doing. I want to work at my craft constantly, to get better. So I think sometimes there's a misconception that, we do know everything. And that I think sometimes, depending on your personality, some people think that you're not approachable. But I've had this conversation with Bobby a lot. Basketball is a sport that, if you take to 2 or 3 other major sports, just say soccer, basketball, football, and baseball. My experience has taught me that basketball is the only sport that people think they can play it, coach it, ref it, train it. And so you have all these viewpoints. And basketball is the only sport that I found that people feel that way. And I'm a kind of person, basketball is sacred to me. I think basketball is a sacred game, whether it's particularly as a coaching part of it. Now that I'm a coach, I think it's a sacred game. And I think everybody can't do what we do. I'm not saying that we're great at it, but everybody can't do what we do, but everybody has an opinion on what we do. So I'm very guarded in regards to me opening up and just talking basketball with anybody, because I think that, for me, that leads to frustration sometimes. Yeah. I'm willing to listen to people, but a lot of times I reserve my opinion, because at the end of the day, I think basketball is a sacred game, and everybody can't communicate in a way that I think that gives the credence to the game of basketball.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
I mean, yeah, I 100% agree. I like what he said, that we know everything. I think it's almost like the perception that the coach is the final stage, if you will, and that once they get there, they're a master and there's nothing else that can be learned. And there was so I was on YouTube and, going through the YouTube cycle where you're watching a bunch of stuff. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson, he had this one, it was in the pre-roll ads, I guess. And there's this quote that reminded me of what Coach was saying. It said, one of the great challenges in life is knowing enough to think you're right, but not enough to know you're wrong.
Mm. Yeah, right? I've seen that too.
Yeah. The master class. Yep.
Yes, yeah, that's great stuff.
That blew me away. And I was like, let me get people around me that know stuff, because I know I don't want to be in that situation where I feel I know everything. Mm-hmm. I always want to be in a situation where I'm consistently learning. And especially if I'm asking athletes to be consistently learning, I for sure better be consistently learning, whether that's improving on, me Xing and Oing, or program development, or relationship development, getting better with understanding what's at our school, so I can give the kids the resources to be successful, and what their definition of success is versus what my definition of success is. And, even though I've done it for, over 10 years, I for sure don't understand everything. There's so much to it, and I learned from so many different people. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about coaches. And I agree. The ability to coaches aren't approachable, that we're not human beings. You know what I mean? I think that's something that I've been trying to break down quite a bit. I've been trying to do a lot over here at Jessup, especially in our community, because we're only really competing with Sac State and UC Davis and UOP and all the Division I programs, where I think the information that I've gotten from people, that they feel like that's too far away, like those coaches don't want to communicate, which is far from the truth, but it is what it is. And so I'm like, well, let me just break down that barrier for all of us coaches. So let me talk to you about what do you need? What do you need help with? What do you think that we're thinking so that I can help you with your stuff? So I agree with both of those points that, one, that we've stopped learning, that we know everything. And then two, that, we're not approachable. That's the furthest from the truth. We are human beings. We do make mistakes. We get upset. We don't like things. We just figure out a way to channel that to help the next generation out, which is a great opportunity for us. So those are the two biggest things. And that's what I work really hard on breaking down. In fact, I got into officiating really a couple years ago back because I got tired of yelling at refs for making bad calls. And I'm like, what are they calling? Why are they calling what they're calling? And ended up where I was able to officiate pretty high levels. And so that was great for me to learn that. But I walked away from it because I was like, I just want to learn the knowledge. I don't care about all the other stuff that comes with it. I just want to learn the information so that I can apply it when I'm teaching. And it actually helps a lot because I'm able to tell them, nope, that's illegal. This is legal. This is what officials are going to call. It gives me a different perspective. So if I expect my kids to learn and get better, I for sure better do the exact same thing.
I think the officiating part is critical, and Bobby knows that I do officiating too. I know when I first started doing it, even now, you see the game so differently than when you're coaching or even as a player. I know refereeing for me has opened up my vision of the game even more. And I think as a coach, not only the vision part, but you learn how to, I know for me, I learned how to talk to officials better. Right. Communicate with them better, whether it's something verbal or nonverbal. And as you know officials get to know you, then you're able to get your point across easier, and they'll listen to you because particularly if they know you've done it before and they know how, because it's not an easy job, it's a hard job. Right. And if they know that you've done it before and you build a rapport with them, then I think it's easier to communicate with them, like I said, nonverbal or verbal. Right. So at least you get your chance to be able to get your point across to them.
No, those are amazing points. I think you guys touched on it. That's why we're doing this. So it's all about perspective and everybody opening the doors up to everybody's viewpoint. So no, those are amazing. And I think also too, with some players, even coaching younger kids. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in high school and I get a chance to work with a 5th grade team, their coaching or understanding of what you guys are going through opens up. So maybe they have a little more sympathy, when they're trying to teach them. When the coach is trying to teach them.
I agree. I think every high school kid should. And I don't see it very often. At least I don't see it in Sacramento. It doesn't happen very often. You don't see high school basketball camps where kids that are on the varsity team are teaching the, second, third, and fourth graders who are just understanding basketball. It doesn't happen very much out here. Every once in a while, a couple of schools do it, but a lot of schools, they don't do basketball camps for kids in their district or in the area, and give those high schools a chance to actually teach what they're learning. They don't give back on that aspect. And I think that's where some of the disconnect has been beginning to show its face, I would say, especially in the women's game. Yeah. I don't think there's one women's basketball camp. There's one high school I think that does it. And that's the only one that I've heard of. But their program is fairly successful as far as, kids coming through there being prepared. But there hasn't been a lot of that where the 17, 18, 16-year-olds are giving back to those, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are just learning the game. And I think by them being able to teach it, they understand what coaches are going through, so they're more apt to listening. And they'll pick up on the information a lot more. I do know we had a young lady who played for us at Jessup the last 3 years. She couldn't this year because she was student teaching, but she said she played at Clovis West. And that's one of the things she said was that's what they do. They do basketball camps and they teach their system. So by the time you get to high school, you can tell somebody who hasn't been in a system and who has, but that also brings a sense of unity, for them across the board. So everybody, all the girls come to their games. So that's why there's a lot of kids at their games because they went to the basketball camp. It's a whole community. And so I haven't seen that very often. So my hope is that, some young ladies get into, teaching the kids. In fact, some of the older ones that I have, I try to have them. I had a 7th grade group, and I had them coaching my 7th graders because I wanted them to understand how to teach something and how to game manage in essence. And then the other thing was I wanted them to get into officiating because I got into it when I played in college, and it opened up my eyes a lot. And so once they understood what officials are calling, it changed their game a whole lot. They started doing less fouling. They started traveling less. They were more intentional about the stuff they did. And so those are the 2 things I definitely think all kids need to do is officiate, whether it's, itty bitty ones at the rec level or not, and also coach it because I think they'll fully get an understanding of like what basketball is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Got a good question from Coach Jacqueline. What is the biggest adjustment / hurdle you see players struggle with most often when they step on your campuses? Coach Barbour, you want to jump on this one?
Okay. The culture of basketball has changed a lot. I think, when I'm sitting there talking to you two, I know I'm the oldest guy in the room. So I've been around a while. Bobby would attest to that. But the culture of the game has changed. And what I see now is I see kids that don't accept discipline very well. They don't accept being pushed at times. They don't accept just the challenge every day of what it takes to be a good player. The discipline it takes to be a good player. Not making excuses, holding yourself accountable so you can hold your team accountable. That's to me, one of the biggest things that's changed the last 10 years of basketball from my perspective is kids not, it's okay to be average and they're not willing to put the work in. And then you have someone as a coach come and push them. Their response in a lot of ways not is what it should be. So to me, the culture has changed with the work ethic. Not every kid, but overall, I just see a culture that it's like, things are handed to them instead of earning it every day and putting the time in every day to make yourself a better player. Because at the end of the day, I always tell my players, be the best player you can be, not comparing yourself to anyone else, to be the best player you can be. And that takes time. That you don't get that overnight. So just a culture of just accepting the fact that you're going to be pushed. Nothing's going to be handed to you, and you got to work your tail off. Because if you love it, you're willing to work your tail off.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's. I feel bad for kids who have a conversation with me about like playing time or whatever, because I'm just like, you don't realize the stuff that I've been through. And if I would have quit at any point, I wouldn't be in front of you today. And that's one of the things I try to tell them a lot. Like, I've went from starting to then not playing. I went to not playing 10 games or 15 games or whatever it might be to then all of a sudden getting a scholarship to play. But like, I've done everything that could possibly happen. My journey has not been the same as everybody else's. And so I take a lot of pride in the fact that I overcame my own mistakes and was able to push forward. So if you're going to talk to me about anything besides get your butt in the gym and, get your shot right, if that's what's necessary, that's what we're asking for you to do. If you need extra cardio because you're huffing and puffing down the court and you're having to play 36 minutes a game because we got somebody who can't get the job done, well, then you better get in the gym and do that because that's what's necessary for you, And so like, I don't operate with excuses. In fact, one of the things I used to do with one of my teams is they used to have a piece of paper and we had a little box there. And anytime that they had something that was, an issue, like, their foot was hurting, not injured, but their foot was hurting, it's uncomfortable, they got up early, whatever it might be, I said, go ahead and write that on a piece of paper and put it in an excuse box. And you can't take it out of there because then now you're validating that it's okay to have excuses. And so it changed our mentality quite a bit. I haven't done that in a long time, but I do that for myself quite often. I don't feel right about something, or I don't feel good that day, or, my son's acting wild and jumping up and down and all that stuff. And then I got to go do a practice and be energetic for the players. I can't use that my son was, running up and down the house and we were getting mad at him as an excuse why I treat you that way. Right. And I can't expect our players, if they had a bad day in class, they had a bad grade because they chose not to get the job done in on their own time. You can't use that as an excuse of why the other 11 are going to suffer. Right. And so I try to really help them understand that when you eliminate excuses, man, life gets real easy. It gets easier. Excuse me. It doesn't get easy, but it gets easier because you don't use those things. You look at it as an opportunity instead of the crutch. So.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah. Very good question. What are the two most important aspects that keep a player in your program?
Great question.
Yeah.
I would say their work ethic and their attitude and them willing to go through some adversity, because you're going to have adversity in one form or another. But I think if you have the right attitude to work through that through that adversity, wherever it may be, and then have the work ethic to back it up, those things are, there's no price tag on that. It has nothing to do with talent. That's just something that I think if, kids that love the game, they have those traits. Sure. And kids who want to be a part of a team, they work at those things. Because some kids may not have those traits coming in, but they can be learned. Yeah. And if they're in the right environment, they can be learned, because those are life traits. And you want your kids to have them. You want your kids, your own kids to have them. You want your kids you coach to have them. So those are traits that can be learned. But those two definitely, I think, are really important.
I've and I said it before, but we did an exercise this year where John Gordon, and he had a book that is talking about the one word to kind of describe your year. And I really liked it a lot. It was, we all had our one word that we kind of lived by, and we were responsible for making sure that people lived by it. Mine was care. And so I know there's use that for two, but I've tried to reduce it down to one. But care is an acronym, so I found a way to have more words within it.
Good for you.
Go carry.
So the 4 words is committed, right? So when you talk about keeping kids in our program, committed, right? Being committed to the North Star of what the program is, to what your teammates want out of this whole experience, which is going to take work. It's going to take extra time and energy for you to actually have conversations and find out what, one of the young ladies on your team that's a post player, that, her North Star for why she's playing basketball might be different from yours, but you need to be committed to it. You need to be committed to the coaches want, to the schools, to your teachers. They all have things that they want to accomplish. That does take work, and leadership does take work. So I'm sorry if you don't want to work, you're going to not be a leader. That's kind of what it comes down to for us, So, but committed, that's important. Your attitude, what Coach talked about, attitude is the only thing that you can control. You can't control everything else that happens outside of you, but you can control how your attitude and really how you respond to that stuff. The R stands for respect. So I respect everybody. You don't have to earn it. It's freely given, and you can gladly try to disrespect me. That's on you, but you don't have to earn my respect as given, right? And we try to treat everybody the exact same way. In fact, that's one of our 5 characteristics for champions of character is respect, amongst the other 4. So we try to live that through the NEI. And then E was empathy. And so making sure that you understand where somebody's coming from. I think if you do those 4 things, it's impossible to not stay in a program. honestly. And that has nothing to do with what you do on the basketball court, which is, I think, is the best part about it. It's all stuff that you can control out there. And so I think if you do those 4 things, that's what I try to live every single day. And it has been hard. Like, as soon as I said it, I was like, man, this is going to be a challenge. And so every single day I've been challenged to do that with, my relationship with my wife, with my son, with all the players, like going the extra mile. I could not text them and be like, oh, I'm gonna just text them tomorrow. But I'm like, nah, if I care, I got to go text these guys, you know what I mean? And find out how they're doing. And so, yeah, that takes time, but that's also why I'm in the position that I'm in. So yeah, I think that's probably the one thing I would say that would keep you in the program for sure.
What I like about both your answers, and that's what I was thinking about when you guys were both responding, is like, you can't get out of it. You know what I mean? You cover all your bases. You know what I mean? With those answers.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing to teach? It could be on the court. It could be off the court. What's that thing? And I know times have changed, and but what's that one thing that just keeps coming up? Like, man, I'll
take it. I'll take it. Decision making. And I'm in the business, so I do player development, and I got to the point where I got tired of doing drills, and I was like, you know what? We got to teach you how to make the right choice so that the skill set matches the decision. Mm. And so I will accept you not having the skill set in a situation because I know the skill set will match your decision. So if we need to work on through the legs dribbles, it's not just because we're working on through the legs dribbles because I think we need to have it. There's a reason why you're going between the legs to get somewhere. And so I teach you the situation, and then we work on a skill set. Right. So I was guilty of it when I first started training. I was like, and this is pre-YouTube, right? So like I'm seeing drills. I'm like, that's nice. I'm going to use it. And then players would never use it in the game. And I'm like, well, because they don't know what decision they need to make to use it. So I worked in reverse. I said, all right, what is your offense? What's necessary for your offense, right? What is your position in your offense? What decisions do you need to make? Then we walk through that process of like, when the defense does this to you, if they send a double team, what are our choices? What can we do? And so that's what I took into my training and developing. And I saw players play more when that started happening. And even more important was it started a relationship with the coach and I, because in most cases, the coaches hate player development people or trainers. They hate them because they feel they can teach them everything. Rightly so, if that's what's in your practice. I'm all for that, right? But some of the kids that I'm asking, like, how often do you work on player development or skill development in practice besides the first 10, 15 minutes and decision making? And it's very rare. A lot of it's like, well, we're just going over plays with no defense or people who already know the outcome. And so, like, I say, okay, well, we're not getting the reps in practice. Let's work on those reps when we're training so that for every, 5 reps or 10 repetitions you get in practice, you can get 50 of them in our training session. And so decision-making would be, I would say, the number one thing that's the hardest because they got a ton of skill but don't know how to use it. So that's where I've seen, and we've actually, in our player development time, we have guards and bigs. I'll spend at least half of that time every single time we do it, which is probably like 3 to 4 times a week, on decision-making drills, because I want them to make better choices, and it drastically improved our decision-making. It doesn't mean we were, blowing people out by 30, but I can tell our guards make better choices. They made reads earlier, aside from when we go, 5-on-0 skeleton or 5-on-5. They make better choices, but it's 1 or 2 people. So that's what I've noticed is the biggest transition for a lot of people, and the hardest thing I would say to teach decision freshmen, especially.
Right.
I think that's a great answer, and I agree with you. I think one of the things for me that I try and do is give a kid confidence. I think even your best players, depending on their personality, they lack confidence. So one of the things that I think I'm fairly good at is getting the individual along with my team, understanding that how good they can be and that they are good and that they need to believe that they're good. I think it's so important in life. I believe everything in life starts in between your ears. You know, if you feel good about yourself, you have a chance to do whatever you want to do. If you don't feel good about yourself, then it's a struggle, a constant struggle. So from a coaching aspect of it, I just really try and get into my players' head to understand that they, you know, you can be successful or you are good. You wouldn't be here if you weren't good. If I didn't believe in you, you wouldn't be here. So just giving them confidence in, like Coach said, the decision-making part of it and the skill development. But I just think mentally getting them to understand that they can be successful. It's not going to be easy, but because it takes a lot of work, but believing in what you're doing and believing in yourself.
That's both great answers. I thought of this when you guys were talking, and Bobby sent me some questions, so I'm going to try to frame it this way. I had a great high school career. I step on your campus. Now I'm not the man or the woman anymore. How do I cope? How do I deal? And is it something that it's a balance between environment, culture, teammates, and the coaches and their circle? What have you seen that's successful with somebody? And you guys have talked about this a lot, adversity, and then how do I get there? How do I deal?
I'll start answering this first if you guys don't mind. I think I said earlier, my head coaching experience has been at the high school level. At the collegiate level, I was always assistant coach. So I'm going to talk from a perspective of being a head coach. And one of the things that I would do every year is I would have a pre-basketball meeting with anybody that wanted to come out for basketball. We would have a meeting. And even kids that were coming in as this reputation of being a great player as a freshman, and you know, people were telling them they're going to play varsity and that whole thing. When I meet with these kids, one of the first things I would tell them is that your reputation, everything you did coming here doesn't mean anything right now. I mean, I don't care what you've done before you got here. At the end of the day, you have to prove yourself again on a daily basis. Because I think sometimes players, again, you know, particularly now with social media, you know, and all this, you know, YouTube stuff, people can have access to, you know, a lot of players buy into that, you know, and they think some of them are overly confident. So I'm a pretty straightforward kind of person. You know, there's not a lot of gray area with me. So the first thing I'm trying to get them to understand is this is not going to be easy. What you did before, prior to here, you know, it doesn't mean anything. You have to prove yourself again. So I want to see that hunger come out of them to prove it to me that they're as good as they say they are, as good as their reputation precedes them, if they have that reputation. But and the person that doesn't have that, I want them to understand is you have an opportunity here, and it's up to you to decide what that opportunity is. So for me, it's just getting them to understand that. It's great what you did in the past, but right now it's about what you bring to the table from this day forward and what you need to do to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had some successful young ladies, people who, you know, won a state championship, and you know, the struggle for her was understanding that it's a different game in college, that the decisions have to be faster, the physicality is different. You know, in our level, we're playing against girls who sometimes have taken off a couple of years from school and came back, and now they're 23, 24 as a junior. You know what I mean? And so they're a woman now, and they're going to go at you differently than somebody who's 18, 19 years old. And you were playing, let's say, on varsity, but you're going against a freshman who's playing on varsity. Well, yeah, you're going to do some things better than that freshman, right? And so understanding that you're starting over. If you can remember what it was like when you came in as a freshman, like the hurdles and the stuff that you had issues with, like it's going to be that. But now it's times 10 because you're getting paid to go to school in essence, right? Like you're getting education paid for from the institution because they feel you have value. And so now sometimes kids put extra stress on themselves. We've seen that where it's unnecessary to. But that's one of the biggest things is understanding when you come into it, it's a new situation. Like it's brand new. Whatever you knew before, like Coach is saying, whatever you knew before, it got you to this point, but it's going to take a whole lot of more things for you to learn, for you to stay. Because the issue is never really getting to the level, it's staying there, right? It depends on what you want to do. Because there's some kids literally that are like, I just want to be on the team and I want the gear. They don't care about
good.
they're gonna be amazing in practice.
Yeah.
They're gonna be high-fiving people, like, and that's cool. That's for some people. But some people are like, no, I want to be All-American. I'm like, you realize you're probably the top 0.001% of the population that play basketball. So like if you're not working like those people are, like you don't have a chance. It's not because I don't want you to, it's just the reality. And so I think that's some of the stuff is that they don't realize that whatever you do, you have to multiply that times a whole lot because you did what it took to get here. Now you have to do what it takes to not only either get in the game, but like be effective in practice. Don't slow the practice down. Because I really believe, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but there's levels to it. Like you can be a great practice player and not slow practice down, but then be terrible in the game, right? Because you know all the drills in practice, but game gives you a whole lot of variety. So you're not good at processing the variety. And that's on us, right? Because we maybe either didn't do our due diligence, 1, or 2, we're not teaching it enough for you, or 3, we had taken extra time. So we got to own that. But I also want that people understand, like there's some people who don't do as well in practices, do what it takes, but are great in games because they can function in chaos. Well, then you're slowing everybody else down in practice because we're having to always address your stuff that you're dealing with. You're always messing up in practice. You make the right choices in games, but you're messing up in practice, right? The sweet spot is to get the great practice player and the great game person, and that's what everybody should be working towards, right? And go back to getting no excuses. I let kids know right away, like you sucked in practice, bottom line, or you sucked in the game. I don't understand why I'm not making X shots. Well, when is the last time you got in the gym and made 300 shots? Oh, do you leave right after practice when practice is done and go, to go eat dinner? Or do you take 15 minutes that can cut into your dinner time, right, and make 300 shots and let me rebound for you? Or do you come in pre-practice and do it? Because we don't have an hours restriction at all. You can come in and we can work with you whenever. Like, it don't matter. You know what I mean? So, all that stuff is important. Again, I eliminated a lot of excuses. Like, that's one of the things. Like, you got to put in extra work. Bottom line.
So everyone's coming in with a different story, different background, different challenges from family, friends, significant others. So with that being said, basketball wise, I get there. What's a priority checklist look like? Like, what should I be focusing on? Like, look, when you get in here, make sure if it's you need to get stronger. I know everybody's different, but how do they put something like that together? Is it sitting down with y'all and saying, hey, what do I need to do? Because, the coaches, you guys got a lot of things going on. So how should these players address or do you guys address it for them? Like, hey, look, I got this list. Here's the things I need you guys to do. How does that look?
Yeah, for us, we try to do that in the recruiting process. We try to let them know exactly, when they come in, here's the position you're going to play. Here's what's necessary for you to be successful in this position, for you to, 1, not slow practice down, but then 2, be successful in the conference. Because, yes, preseason does matter, but our conference is very competitive and we know what we have to expect. And so this is how you don't you have room or you have margin for error in the conference games is by doing these things, because we know you'll make mistakes. You'll be scouted, so stuff will get taken away. So we've done that in the recruiting process and given you exactly what it takes. And now it's your choice to actually execute on that. We can tell if you haven't or not. And by how you come in at the start of the whole year and throughout the whole year, we can watch your work ethic as the whole year progresses, and we can pretty much put together that you didn't do what you needed to get done. Now we have to reevaluate our commitment to you because you, in essence, didn't do your part of the commitment to us. So that's one of the things that we do. We also like to, because we're a Christian school, we try to give them a pecking order as far as what their priorities are. We go God, family, school, then basketball, and then everything else after that. So if we're not taking care of those things in that order, then we can tell when other things are out of whack. So that's just for our campus and our school. That could be, changed a bunch of different ways. It can be, family, school, then basketball. It could be whatever. But like we try to give them an order of importance for them. That's off the court, because we typically know that whatever is off the court will go onto the court. So we want them to take care of that side of things. And then when they get onto the court, we tell them like, hey, in every position, at point guard, we need you to do these 3 things. And at the shooting guard, we need you to do these 3 things. So we play 4 out, so there's no real you're for sure 2 or for sure 3. It's kind of interchangeable. But we know our 5s, we tell them, like, we need you to be here in these spots. We need you to make hooks with right and left. We need you to be able to catch dump off passes to the shelf or to wherever it is so that you can go up and finish. We need you to have these skill sets. If you're taking care of these first, game should be easy for you to add everything else onto you. So that we try to give them as much as possible, which without, for lack of a better word, saying being slave to the system. We don't want you to only do that and that's it, because we understand that once you get to the conference tournament or you get to nationals, everybody knows what you're going to do when you're going to do it. So we want you to be a basketball player past that, but we hope we've given you the skills to progress until you got to that point. And then after that, you let your God-given ability and decision-making, hopefully we've done our job at giving you all the tools so you can go out there and just perform and play freely. So.
Thank you.
I've always had 3 things that before we even got on the floor that I would tell my players and are in our parent meeting. These are the 3 things I would tell the parents and the kids is, number 1 is I want you to be a great person, not a good person. I want you to be a great person. I want you to really work at being a good person. It's easy to be a jerk. It's real easy.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I want you to be I want you to really work at being a good person. And then the next thing is I want you to be the best student you can be. Everyone can't be a 4.0, but at the end of the day, you can work at it. If that means getting extra help, at the end of the day, I want you to work at being a student. Then the third part is being the basketball player, being the best basketball player you can be. But I'll put it in that order, being the best person you can be, then being the best student you can be, then being the best basketball player you can be. And on the court part, we love our jobs. So we're not perfect, but we're going to try and give our kid everything we can to have them develop. Because I'm huge in development. I'm a huge believer in getting your team at the beginning of the year, and then the team, and then individually, and seeing that journey. To me, a season is a journey, and I love going through the journey of seeing the development of the team and the individuals within the team, how to get better. And to me, that's one of the funnest things about coaching is seeing your team get better and the individual get better. But at the end of the day, it's about them being good people, being the best student, and then being a good basketball player.
Awesome. We got a question from one of our point guards. Can a point guard be recruited when they're stronger defensively than they are offensively?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I can see Bob right now going crazy. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you have to be able to run an offense, though. You can't just be out there, I'm going to just sit in front of somebody and smell what they had for lunch yesterday. Like, you got to do something else, too, right? Because you don't want to be a liability offensively. But, yes, for sure. They can be. I will say this: if you're going to be that strong on offense, you for dang sure better make sure your team is running. You better be a coach on the floor if you're not going to take any shots. I mean, the reality is that I think this is kind of an extreme situation, but I had posted about it. I think Jason Kidd had said he was going to go through the whole, back in 2008, I want to say it was, when they played for USA Basketball. He was going to go the whole tournament without taking a shot, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's possible playing with a bunch of Hall of Famers, but like, it's ridiculous to even think that he was putting that in his head to even do it. And that's a hard feat to do. And he ended up not being able to do it because LeBron made a pass to him or whatever. But like, it is definitely possible. But he ran the team, right? He played with pace. He did other things that didn't require taking them shots, right? And so if it's the same thing for whoever asked that question, like, yeah, you can do that, but you for sure better do something on the offensive end, because you'll just be either sitting on the bench or you'll be great, practice person to go against tough defense. I mean, I don't know. Like, I would make sure I can do something on the offensive end, not just be super strong. But yes, you can be, to answer your question. And
like
it also
said,
depends on the system too.
Like you said, you guys recruit. I mean, not recruit, but you guys scout. So
yeah. Oh yeah, we'll sag off. We've had players where they're just like, well, we're not going to guard you. Like, we've literally had players where, young lady would catch you at the high post, and they would wait it by the restricted area, and she wouldn't shoot it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, we got to add that to your game, because we're not going to have that happen, again. So, that I would make sure I can score from. I mean, you don't have to be great at it, but you can score from the different levels, right? The 3-point line, mid-range, at the basket, and from the free throw line. If you can't score in those 4 areas, it's going to be very difficult for you to get on the floor.
This is, to me, one of the beautiful things about basketball. It's not baseball, it's not football. So, in baseball, you can be the DH. In football, you can play offensive defense. Well, in basketball, we can't hide you.
Nope.
But I think there is, I would agree with Coach that you can get recruited. It just makes it more difficult. But at the same time, I think if you got the right coach recruiting you, right school, in that they see what you can do defensively, how good you are, that they say, well, we can get you in our program, and we can develop your other skills to help become a better offensive player, so you won't be a liability on offense. So that definitely can happen. But if your defense is your strong suit, then you better really show up and make sure that's something that stands out consistently. And on the other end, to me, just don't turn that thing over. Don't turn that ball over. And like Coach said, get your team in offer, but just don't turn that thing over. And then you have a chance then. You have a chance, because I just think you can always develop your skills. Your skill can always get better. It's just about putting the time in and getting confidence as you go through getting your skills better. So, but again, it's the beauty of basketball. We can't take you off the floor, because the other team, because you guys got the ball. It's not football. So that's the beauty of it.
I'm gonna. There's a good question that's in the chat. I'm gonna hold off on that one for another perspective, because I think that there's a question in there. It's more for a parent, because like I said, we're doing the coaches. We want to do a parent perspective and then former player, college player perspective. So I'm gonna hold off on that one. I'm gonna skip to this question. What can you definitely in our times as well? What can we as players do to prepare ourselves for the college level?
Well, I'm gonna share a story. There's a young lady who used to play for West Valley, and she wanted to be better. And I said, all right, cool. Well, this is what it's going to take. We're going to have to make 1,000 shots a day, right? So we're not talking about taking 1,000 shots. We have to make it. And however long it took for us to do that, I was committed to that time. It was her and actually another young man. They both did it. He was actually in the 6th grade, and she was in 9th grade at the time. And this is the craziest, and it was motivated from, it was a situation, I think it was in NBA, like some behind the scenes or something like that. It talked about Gilbert Arenas during his rehab period. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, he got in the gym and made 1,000 shots. And I was like, okay, he has time on his hands, right? But I was like, what would it be like if, players made 1,000 shots? What would it look like, and what would they be on the other end? And I'm like, it's only going to be good, because I can promise you nobody else is making 1,000 shots a day in high school basketball, let alone at junior high or middle school. We did that whole summer. We committed to it, spring and summer, committed to that whole thing. While she was still doing club ball, while she was still doing training and running and all that other stuff, we still made time for it. She went from, let me back up. She went from not being confident in her shot to just like every time she got it, she was going against grown men all the time, getting buckets like all the time, right? So the confidence factor went through the roof. Second thing, her point production went through the roof. Like, it was automatic for her. She didn't think as if, like, should I take this shot? She's already practiced it hundreds of thousands of times. I'm going to make this shot if I shoot it. And it's only one shot in the game. She knows she's made hundreds of thousands. If she misses one, she's going to make the next 99 if she takes 100. So she had that confidence going into it. Another young man that I did the same exact thing with, he went from 10 points per game that year to 20 points per game that next year because of the confidence factor, right? And again, it was just the framework of what's going to help you be consistent, because that's all I was trying to teach, is just the consistency. Show up every single day, make 1,000 no matter how long it takes, and then go home and repeat. That's really all I try to do, right? So just in that framework, it built the mental toughness, it built the physical, necessity. You think you jump in 1,000+ times, so you're building the athletic ability, the muscle memory. The fact that you have to work to get to the level, but then you have to do twice as much to sustain what you've already built. Like, I think that's the number one thing I would say that kids need to work on, or conditioning, because the game is faster. Your decisions are pretty much the same reads, but the game is faster, right? So you can only be so fast at 16, 15, and 14, but you can at least start to work on being efficient. So when you do hit that puberty and you do, get athletic and all that, so you get your man body, you get your woman body, you're now have all the tools necessary to be efficient when you're playing. Because those decisions are exactly the same, but they just happen so much faster. So conditioning would be important, because you want to be able to last a practice, because those games are super duper difficult, and so it's going to be twice as hard in the game. So if you're conditioning and you're struggling in practice, you for sure aren't going to get into the game. So we play a game it's cardio based, and you got to be able to keep up, and so that's just what it is. I would say conditioning, and I don't even look at conditioning as a punishment, like, not at all. In fact, when I do, like, you got to run, I do it because, like, if you turn the ball over, you're going to have to sprint back anyway. So let's get that out of our system now, and then we'll be able to go and not turn the ball over so much. We'll be in shape so we don't turn the ball over, we can score more, but that's kind of what I would say is conditioning, a big thing.
The things that we're talking about, first of all, I'm loving the conversation. But anything you do in life, to be good at it, there's no shortcuts to being good. And or just being the best you can be. There's no shortcuts to doing that. So one of the things I do every year, whether I'm a head coach, assistant coach now, is I ask the kids how much they like basketball. Who likes basketball? Raise their hand. And they'll raise their hand. Just everybody usually does. Then I ask them how many people love basketball. Because there's a huge difference between like and love. And I think if you love something, then you're willing to, do everything you can to get out of it. And we're talking about basketball, so you're willing to do everything you can to become the best player you can be, because you love the game of basketball. And so you're willing to, like Coach said, make those 1,000 shots, make that sacrifice of going to dinner 15 minutes later because you're willing to put the extra work in. So I think the passion of what you're doing has to be there. And so if you have passion, then you're willing to not take the shortcuts. You're willing to do the extra. And then that tends, to me, that gets you through the adversity. When you have the passion and willing to put the work in.
Nice. How do you guys continuously learn the game? What are you drawing from? What type of, because we're all doing it in some form or fashion. And I want to open up that that coach's door for a lot of the parents and players. What are you guys doing consistent? Because I know we've had conversations and, hours on hours. And I think, like you said, Coach, this is a great, because this is what we talk about when we're just chit-chatting, we're just hanging out, having breakfast. So how are you guys getting better as coaches? What are you doing? What are you pulling from? To use inspiration, drills?
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Coach. Sorry.
For me, I read a lot. I'm always looking for quotes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for stuff that resonate to me from a mental standpoint that I can not only for myself but pass on to my coaches that I'm dealing with or to my players. Those things are important because I think anything you do in life starts in between your ears. So if you believe something and you hear it and it resonates with you, then I think you're willing to at least try it and see how it works out. The other thing is, we're in this, this situation where we're staying home. So I've got this collection of games this past year. I'm a college game watcher. I watch very little pro basketball. In fact, before the season stopped, I didn't watch one pro game. I think I might have watched a couple of Warrior games, particularly in the regular season last year. So I don't watch a lot of pro basketball. I love watching college basketball, whether it's male or female. And I tape games. Mm-hmm. And I take them to learn. And when I'm watching those games, I'm not just watching who made the shot. I'm watching how did he get open? How did she get open? What kind of play that got them that open shot? What was the footwork like? When they made a certain move and it's like, man, that's pretty good. And you run it back and see, what was that? Was that a reverse pivot, front pivot, whatever it was, the footwork? Because I believe the game starts from the ground up. It starts with your footwork. So I'm a huge believer in watching basketball and then going from there. But I want to learn. And when I go watch games, I know I had a great opportunity this past CCS season to go watch games with Bobby. And the beauty of that being there is, and particularly if you're around, people who love basketball, you have some great conversations. Because for me, I'm a huge believer in body language. Again, we were talking about earlier about the filming part of it. When you're at a game and you're watching, body language, facial expressions speaks volumes to me. And so when I'm able to see a game in person, I'm watching those things, how a player or a team reacts to the good and the bad, how they react to when a call is made against them, for them or against them. Because I think that determines a lot, particularly the next play. And that's the beauty of a basketball. You don't have a lot of time in between the next play. So, again, I watch and I tape a lot of college basketball to better myself.
I can tell you this. I agree with Coach. I'm a Bulls fan. We are terrible this year. That's my excuse to not watch them. And so, but I will watch the Last Dance documentary. I will watch that.
Everybody should be watching that.
Yeah, that's the lick. So I'm gonna watch that for sure. But outside of that, I really don't watch. All the girls ask me, "Oh, did you watch Warriors versus?" No, I did not watch that. I'm busy preparing for our next game. So sorry, I'm not watching that. But what I have watched and actually got a lot of, which is really cool, it's on YouTube, is a lot of the FIBA games. Because a lot of the stuff is very similar, especially on the women's side with the spacing and stuff like that. So I watch a lot of FIBA games. There's no defensive 3 seconds. So, the rules aren't set up to have advantages for the offense. So it's great to watch how teams are able to misdirect to get shots. And I really, really enjoy that quite a bit. And then defensively, how quickly they communicate and what they should do. In fact, probably one of my favorite teams to watch is Spain, the one from 2016 and 2012 when the Gasol brothers were playing, because those are two bigs that obviously they've known each other forever, but they had a whole a bunch of guys who were used to playing with each other for decades. So I enjoyed watching that like teamwork. What does it look like when guys play with, on the same team for more than 10 years, right? In the unity that were, the looseness that they played with, and the togetherness that they played with. How can I get some of those things into what we're doing? I can crunch that down to 4 years. How can I get that same exact thing? It's hard with USA basketball because it's almost like a new team every single year, and they don't get a chance to stay in the same cycle the whole time. But I enjoy watching good basketball. But it was really telling this past year in watching the international play, the USA basketball, the model that they have for that, as far as recruiting a new team every single time and not having the senior guys play. It presented some struggles for them for sure. And so, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to reevaluate some stuff pretty soon about how we can still compete at an international level because, in some instances, we're falling behind. So I watch a lot of that, international basketball. Actually have Synergy. I don't think Synergy is accessible for high schools. No. And I'm hoping that they come up with something, but, like, it is a game changer. I clip everything. I got highlights. I started posting on my social about like Sabrina going off of pick and rolls and just getting layups off it. You can actually segment.
Coach, real quick, explain to them what Synergy is.
Okay, so Synergy. So if you can imagine Huddle or Crossover, but on steroids, that's basically what it is. That is one of the best things. Once I had access to it, I don't even really watch TV anymore. I just watch games because I can pull up any situation. If we're getting beat off of pick and rolls because we're playing a team that girl, goes up pick and roll 80% of the time in the game, I'm going to pull up defensive clips of how people guarded the pick and roll for guards. Like it's amazing. And it segments every single type of play, not just the plays that happen, but the type of play, whether you went right, whether you went left, over the screen, you rejected the screen, people to come off of staggers, flare, like everything, every situation that can happen in a game, it's statted or it has, it's been recorded. And so you can just watch clips. You can actually, the cool part is you can see how other people fare based on, the ranking of all players in the NCAA, Division 1, 2, 3, all players in the NAIA. It's a game changer for sure. So I watch a lot of Synergy for sure. But for my entertainment, I would say I would watch a lot of FIBA games. And I'm trying to find some EuroLeague games too, because I just love the pace that those games are playing. They're playing a 24-second shot clock with a reset at 14. Mm-hmm. So I watch those type of things. How do they make those decisions at that quick? And how can we bring that to our game? So that's what I do for getting better. And I there's also like some coaching clinic stuff that's great to watch too. But I'm trying to have what they call a board of directors or a group of people that you trust, that you can call at 3 a.m. and cry your soul away when you lose by 50 or something. Have those type of guys that I can. Thanks, Bob. You've been on plenty of those, so. But you know what I mean. Like it's great to have those type of people, to have those mentors in your life, really, to be able to talk to people about just bounce, what's going on in your head off. And a lot of times. Like Coach was saying, reading information, like I said, the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing was great. But when you're talking with mentors and stuff like that too, or just people that you can bounce ideas, they'll give you great knowledge too. And it just really helps that. So those are the things that I do to get better.
For sure. We have a couple minutes left, and man, I mean, we could do this.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean, I got like 20 more questions, but we got to obviously wrap it up. Obviously a lot of us doesn't know how the summer is going to look, even let alone how the fall is going to look. Mm-hmm. With that being said, what advice would you give the players? Because I know we're all chomping at the bit, but maybe leave them with one or two things that they can be doing or they should be doing in this time.
I'll give a quick answer. Again, the beauty of basketball is you can get stuff done without a rim. Mm. I just believe, when people tell me, or players tell me that they get bored working out, to me, basketball is such an imaginary game. How can you get bored if you use your imagination in your workout? So I think that there's so much there's things you can do with that basketball without having a rim that you can to better yourself. And then if you do have a rim that you can, in front of your house, in the back of your house, that makes it even better. So it's just about putting the work in. Even now, you don't have to be inside to put the work in.
Right.
I just remember when I was a kid, we used to play in the rain. So at the end of the day, it's just getting out there and becoming real confident in what you're doing, and that just about putting the reps in, putting the time in.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell this story quite a bit, but it was the coolest thing I saw this past summer when I went with you guys to Chicago. Ali, I know you're in here. I saw you come to the gym. I think it was we were watching games. And you came to the gym and you were dribbling your basketball. I haven't seen, nobody asked you to bring your basketball. You had it with you. You're just dribbling it, right? At the games, watching the games, supporting the other teams, just dribbling your basketball. You don't see that very often. If the basketball is around, you have it in the gym, and that's the only time you have it. I used to take my ball with me to school and dribble it all the time. How I got better as a ball handler, I dribbled the ball all the time. So that's the only way to do it. That was one of the things that impressed me quite a bit. If you want to go run, you can go for a run. Literally, you have two legs, you can go run. Like, you don't have to have a court to go run a mile every single day. And guess what? You could take your basketball with you while you're doing it. Every single time you get to a crosswalk, you can go behind the back or flat backs or whatever you want to do. But you can work on your skill set in any situation. And like Coach was saying, it's a very imaginative game. You can you can be at your house, literally Euro stepping your mom or dad to get around them. Like, you can spin move. And my wife gets upset at me when I run into her and I try to work on my finishes. Like, I absorb contact. She hates it. She's like, not a basketball court. I don't care. I'm always working on something, right? So, but that's kind of the situation. The same exact thing. Like, don't be afraid to include a ball with everything that you're doing. I mean, I made a joke about it, but I'm like, everybody should have the best handles in the world. Nobody should have a turnover after this whole thing is said and done, because the one thing you can't control is you handling the basketball. So, I would say that be one thing for sure is handle the rock every single day and go on a run. Those are the two things you can control if you have a basketball and you have space. So, and
I will say this last thing with that is, don't be afraid to try something different. You need to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. If you're really good at going between your legs, work on something else to get better at. So just try something different so that you do struggle a little bit. So then that tells you need to work on it more to get better.
Sure. Man, you guys, amazing information. I know everybody appreciates it. I know I enjoyed just conversating, just asking questions, just listening and learning. I've been doing this a while too, and I learned so much in this last hour and a half. So, from the bottom of my heart, and I know from the group too. Thank you guys. We're definitely going to try to do this again. And like I said, this was just all about just perspective. And I think the next two will bring in some parents of college players, just to get that perspective, and then also some former players and get their perspective and just understanding. That's all we want to do, is just share information, especially during this time. So with that being said, can everybody turn on their cameras real quick so I can get a screenshot, and then we'll let you go.
And well, before they do that, I don't know if you guys all have social. I'm on Instagram. Yeah, I'm at Coach Tet. I'm going to start, like I talked about, that synergy, taking clips and posting them. Like, I'm literally going to do that every week. So I don't have, okay. So I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to probably have any guys stuff on there, but I'm going to have nothing but girls basketball. But if you guys are looking for film and stuff like that, I'll have clips of different situations and different things on there, so you guys can go ahead and find, different situations and learn, and not just depend on what you learned from last year or whatever, but you get some real life stuff. So follow me. I'm on Coach. I'm at Instagram at Coach Tet.
Yeah, that's very good. Maybe we can. We're going to try to get on a similar schedule. Either the Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll be doing some form or fashion. Just bringing the coaches back and Coach, you feel free to post anything. If you guys see anything, let's get a lot more active, guys, on our chats. If you come across something, like share it with the group. Just like, hey, you know what? Just like, that's what me, Coach Bobby, Ted, we're always like, Ted will see something, he'll text it to me. Hey, check this out. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to follow up on that. So you guys should be using each other, even though, like, hey, this is, the situation we're in. You all have phones. We all have means to communicate. Like, really take advantage of it. And it only is going to help you with this whole process. So let's do more of that. Let's really, like, get more people involved. This is great. We got 20-something people on here. Let's see if we can get more players. So the next time we reconvene, now suddenly we have 40. So maybe that can be a goal of ours, to get 40 people on here and just continues to share information. Because like when we get together for practice, it's amazing, and I think we can do the same thing, on something like this. Like use this lane as a means to, like, get together and share ideas and share information.
But James, I really want to thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun. I told Bobby that I was all in. This is something I haven't done in a long time, so I really appreciate the invite. Thanks a lot, Bobby.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you guys for doing this. I didn't have this growing up, so I really appreciate it, because y'all get an opportunity. So this is cool.
Okay, you guys be safe.
All right, you be safe.
Yep.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. We'll see everybody. I'll post things on the group me, so let's keep that open. And then also on our Instagram, and Bobby and I and Coach Tet and a lot of our group are just in, Coach Barbour, we're going to keep coming up with ideas. So follow around, invite other people, other hoopers, so they don't feel like they're by themselves. Because I want our very first time we get together and practice, that's going to be amazing, because we're all going to feel like, man, I just seen you yesterday. So that's what I want to generate with this. So
this was a great platform. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, guys. All right.
You got 20 minutes of daylight. Get your asses outside and get some work done.
And then.
All right, love you guys.
Take care.